Hey guys, it's Mike Goldstein here again with another episode of the Crushing It with Kitchen Remodeling podcast. And for all you home remodelers, kitchen bath remodelers out there, not only am I welcome you to another just basic episode of the podcast, but today we have such a special guest. We have an expert in Facebook, Instagram, YouTube advertising. We have with us one of the foremost Facebook ad coaches out there, basically someone who runs a program and teaches others how you can target the right people, how you can generate income through Facebook ads, through Google ads. He's going to shed some light on some of the most recent changes in Facebook's targeting options, how it affects businesses in the home industry, in the home services industry, particularly in the kitchen remodeling industry. He's going to talk to us a little bit also about kind of what the opportunities are today through AI, as well as through what you do on your own. And we're going to do all of that just after this.
Are you looking for some fresh ideas to jumpstart your kitchen remodeling business? Welcome to the Crushing It with Kitchen Remodeling podcast. Your host, Michael Goldstein, founder of Kitchen Remodeling SEO, the digital marketing agency working exclusively with kitchen remodeling contractors, and also the author of the ultimate internet marketing guide for kitchen remodeling contractors, will provide insights on proven tips and strategies from top experts in this space so that you can take advantage of industry best practices. Your host, Michael Goldstein. Join Mike as he shares his knowledge each week with an insightful interview or educational segment about how to turn your online marketing efforts into more kitchen remodeling leads and sales opportunities than ever before.
And we're back. So we're bringing in with us today, as I said, one of the foremost experts in the Facebook advertising area across the country. We're bringing in with us the myth, the man, the legend, Josh Wheeler.
Josh, hey, Mike. Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing, man? It's good to see you.
You too. Now, Josh, you and I have known each other for quite a while, but for those people out there who don't know who you are, those who haven't heard about Josh Wheeler and all of the just amazing things that you have been doing in the world of digital marketing over the last 20 years. By the way, shame on all of you who don't know who he is. But for those who don't, Josh, who the heck are you? What is it that you do?
So one of the things that we started back in, 2008 now, is working through this world of Facebook ads. That was way back in the day when you only had the little ad up in the right column. Made a lot of people a lot of money with those little things. But since then, we've been able to branch out and really work super heavy with some of the biggest brands in some of the home services industries, as well as retail and e-commerce. YouTube, Instagram, basically anything that says ads after it, we consider those paid ads, are things that we worked with. And now we have the opportunity to come back in and we help train and teach a lot of people through our ad advisor program. Basically, people who want to do things themselves, but they don't necessarily have the confidence. They can okay, we can put an ad up. We can get one running. But now what? What happens when it doesn't work? What happens when it gets stuck? And those are the things that we help out with our coaching and support programs now. And honestly, it's the things that I love to do the most whenever we can get people going. I love getting the messages back that we have that says, hey, we put your stuff in place. We took all of your advice, and now we have this thing just really cranking, because at the end of the day, being able to help a business make more money allows them to hire more people and make their communities better.
That's interesting. You say, when you love getting those messages back, about how people are thankful and then they've implemented what you've done. One of the things I love getting, and I just got one of these messages the other day, and I was telling you about this kind of beforehand, is, hey, can you please stop running my ads? I can't take on any more work. And that, that's when you really know you've done it right.
It opens up a whole different world when you can have that type of impact on businesses. I know firsthand. I see your things and the things that you post up, and people should be really, really excited for the opportunity to have a chance to work with you when they can.
I appreciate that. Now, with all that said, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on today is Facebook and Instagram have recently kind of thrown a little monkey wrench into the whole marketing and ad area. And they've made it a little bit more difficult to target people or specifically to target people who live in an area. So for those people who are in the home services space, and a great deal of the audience right now, the kitchen remodelers, the home remodelers, it might be, HVAC guys, and you might have some builders in there. You're targeting people obviously who live in the community. You're not trying to target somebody who is on vacation. I run a company in Orlando, Florida. I get 18,000 people an hour coming in to go to Disney World. I don't want to target those people. So what happened? What did Facebook do, and why is it such a big deal?
So let me give you a little bit of backstory or background on where things are at. So used to, up until about 3 weeks ago, when they started rolling these changes out, you had the ability to target people based on they lived someplace, they were recently at some place, or they were traveling someplace. Now that means that people were basically over 100 miles away from wherever their Facebook location says that they normally are, right? So if you are a tourist based company that's in Orlando and you use that, anybody traveling in that's more than 100 miles away, you can run ads to them, and it makes perfect sense. And it gives relevancy, right? To be like, hey, you're traveling in, you can do this stuff while you're here, without focusing on people who see that every single day, right? So what Facebook has decided to do, or I say Meta, but that's Facebook and Instagram,
Yeah.
for those
No,
who
nobody knows
don't,
who Meta is.
right? So whenever you go through now, they've taken away those options, so they just target anybody who's in that area. Now that means that if they're in there recently, like again in Orlando and some big tourist areas are the ones that are going to be absolutely the most impacted. But it's not always the case, because we run ads for some people that, like for example, my home area where we live in a tri-state area. If you're trying to focus, if you're licensed only in, let's say, Ohio versus Kentucky and West Virginia, then it creates major problems, because you're like, okay, well, I can't even show my ads in Kentucky and West Virginia because I only have an Ohio license. So that's where it becomes really, really tricky, because in a tri-state area like that, or in a tri-city area or something like that, there's people that are going back and forth all the time, right, in those areas. So it becomes a little bit frustrating. We've had to really try to put some different things in place and start creating strategies to just negate some of those things, which I know we'll talk about here in just a bit.
Sure. And it's interesting too when you think about it, because you may you brought up an interesting point in terms of people who are in a tri-state area. They're traveling back and forth. I mean, you may live 5 miles from the border, but if you're a law firm, for example, that's advertising, or you're a doctor, or someone who is licensed and cannot work with someone who's outside of their state. I mean, that's a really big deal, and you can waste a lot of ad spend now, just in that. So with that said, I mean, what is really what are the best practices? What is it that you need to do now in order to make sure that you're not wasting your ad spend and showing your ads to people who have there's just no possibility you can service them?
Well, it's unfortunate, because there's no longer a way to eliminate 100%, right? So
Sure.
there's still going to be, sometimes you get things that come in that are not going to be within your service area. Unfortunately, that's just going to happen. As far as showing ads to people, it's just going to happen. Now, here's a few of the ways that you can minimize or negate as much of that as possible. So number one, you need to be making sure that you're focused on excluding states, right? So if you live in
Mhm.
Ohio, you only serve Ohio, then all the rest of the states you're going to have to go through, and you're going to have to exclude them inside of your audience ad sets. Okay.
Sure.
Secondly, you're going to want to go through, and if you're only serving a certain mile radius around where you're at, you're going to have to do something what we would call pin placement exclusions. So it's dropping a pin and saying, okay, let's do 10 miles around that pin. And that allows you to get it really close in to where, like, okay, only this is available. And then everything else is going to be blocked out. Right. So it's going to
Sure.
take a little or a lot more work, depending on how far or
It-
how small that you
yeah.
need that to be.
And
Um,
I was gonna say that geofence, is that kind of like that geofencing
it is, but
technique? Yeah.
there's technically no way to do it in Facebook like that. So for example,
Right.
if for geofencing, for those of you who don't know, you can take something and just put it around a certain small area. So we used to do this for like events, like so you would have like a civic center or an arena or something like that, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna just go draw a little circle right around there
Yeah.
and just target people there. The problem is with that now is that it still doesn't solve the problem. That's where people inside that circle can still not be from inside that circle,
Right.
right? So outside of the exclusions, that's going to be one way that you've got to do it. The second piece to this is using more custom audiences. So, for example, you might have to go to a place like Info USA or Data Axle or someplace like that. You may have
Mhm.
to buy a list in only the certain zip codes that you want to target and upload those to Facebook and only run it to that. Right now, that becomes a little expensive to start out with.
Yeah.
But if you want to make sure that nobody can ever, like, it's not showing to anybody outside the area, that's one way that you would do it because it's like only show to these people, right?
Now, let me ask
But
you, when you
Mhm.
when you do that, so let's say I buy a list of 50,000 people in the Sarasota, Florida area.
Yep.
Now, I don't want all 50,000 of those people. I only want the ones who own homes, because if you're renting, you don't have authority to hire me to if I'm a kitchen remodeler or if I'm a plumber or anything to that extent. Can you stack those? Can you stack the list against ownership and things like that that Facebook does track?
Well, what you would do is you would just get that in your initial list because most of the time, if you go to and Info USA is one of the bigger ones. I think they changed their name to Data Axle. Not
They
100% certain on
did.
that, but with their program, you can say, "Hey, I only want homeowners in these areas." So you're spending a little bit of money on the front end, no different than if you were buying a direct mail list, right? It's really all the same thing. But they're going to give you those personal records, and they have the most of them available. Now, are you going to get 100% match on that list? So if you buy 5,000 names, are you going to get 100% match on that? No. But what you will do is you'll get a lot of the ones that you want to start showing to, and you may have to break it down into small sections. That's where a bigger city is going to be a challenge because there can be a lot more people and the list become a lot more expensive. So what we're probably going to be doing, like in rural markets, no problem. That's perfectly
Right.
fine because you can get a household number and there's, 5,500 homes in a particular area. That's fine, right? But as we go, we're going to have to until this thing shakes down a little bit more. So there will be probably some things. Personally, I think that this may be a short term. Whenever I say short term, within a year or two, that they roll this
Mhm.
back. We're already seeing some things and some tracking mechanisms they put in place that they're rolling back on that we just got notified on this week, and it's been in place since iOS 14 rolled out. So this may be a short term thing. Within a year to 2 years, they roll it back. I suspect that once they start seeing the results come through, either one, their algorithm has gotten way better at being able to see who's out of like by default,
Mhm.
they're saying, okay, well, this person doesn't live here based on their traffic patterns and the tracking they're doing on phones and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Or number two, they're just going to roll about all the way. But for the meantime, we're probably going to have to get used to for Facebook guys being a little less effective and having some leads coming from outside our service areas. Now, there is a fix for that, but it's not on the Facebook side. So,
Sure. Now, just for a minute, going back to the list, because I think that's really important to to consider. These lists can get really, really pricey. What do you think about buying a list? Let's say maybe that's only have, I don't know, 2,500 people, 3,000 people, and then trying to build a lookalike audience? Or does that lookalike audience now open you right back up to the problem that Facebook has created for us?
yep. So a lookalike audience is perfect when you need to expand and see and get in front of more people, but it's going to open you
Right.
back up to the exact same thing because there's no way that you can so now you're looking at the lookalike audience and saying, okay, in this area, but that doesn't mean that like they could live there, maybe they don't live there. So it's going to open you back up to that. Um, it would be my hope that because this is so like this is just changing, and for a
Sure.
lot of things, it's not going to matter. Like if you were running e-commerce ads or things like that
Right.
Facebook, and maybe that's where most of Facebook's money comes from. I don't know. But if you were
Mhm.
looking at it just from that angle, it doesn't really impact anything at all. So this may be one of those things to where it's like, we're going to double down on a different type of ad instead of what we would look at local lead generation, right? That's what all of your customers and all the listeners and all the viewers are going to look at to say we need local lead generation so we have opportunities for jobs. So I don't think that creating a lookalike is going to fix this particular issue, but it will
Yeah,
fix the issue of just getting in front of more people, which is
sure.
if you have that tolerance and you're saying, okay, I've got the budgets to be able to do it, uh,
Yeah.
maybe it's going to be fine.
Yeah, I think another thing that I would think you could do is possibly try and better qualify the people through obviously better creative, better generation of
Yeah.
text, and that that's something where, and unfortunately for the DIYers, the people out there who are they really don't know what they're doing. They know just enough to be dangerous. Maybe they've read a couple blogs and they go and they create Facebook ads. They don't realize it's not just throw an ad out there, but a lot of it has to do with the messaging. And
Yep.
I think that maybe even if you were to use local imagery, maybe you just flat out call it out, hey Miami homeowners, something to that extent.
Absolutely.
Um, that it's going to catch the attention. It isn't necessarily going to disqualify people, but hopefully, if I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I see an ad that says hey Las Vegas homeowners or hey Miami homeowners, I'm probably not paying attention to it.
Yep.
Then again,
Well, that
people are dumb, or society is dumb. People are smart, I think is what they say. So who knows?
well, and with that part of it, you're exactly right.
Yeah,
That your creatives, your ad copy, will
yeah.
like we're going to have to lean super heavy into that to try to push people
Yeah.
away and pull people in at the same time.
Mhm.
So you're spot on.
Yeah. Now here's another interesting, and I don't know if we've gotten to this point yet, but is there a way through IP address detection, and maybe Facebook isn't the platform to do this, but where you can literally detect based on the city that your IP is from?
Well, obviously there are ways that you can get that
Yeah.
part of it done. I don't know that it's available yet in kind of like the ad
Yeah.
blocking, right? The ad blocking or that type of thing, because there are some things that we have inside of our like fraud prevention things to where it's like, okay, when you have bots and that kind of stuff, it largely works off of IP addresses, but there are ways to say, okay, so this is one way that you can at least help not get leads coming through that are from far
Sure.
away, is that if you're going to set up a funnel with your landing page offer that has like your service offer
Mhm.
or $2,500 rebate or whatever that might be in order to incentivize people to come through, one thing that you might have to add on there on the initial form instead of a name, email, and phone number, you may have to add a zip code that
Yeah.
allows it to hook up or sync up with a database or a spreadsheet
Yeah.
that is saying, okay, here's the zip codes we serve. If you put a zip code in that we don't serve, you're going to get an
Yeah.
error message back that says we don't serve that area.
That's a great idea. And
Right.
Josh, you and I have worked together in a lot of campaigns in the past. I know one thing that you're always big on is phone numbers and excluding area codes. And mine, in this day and age with cell phones, I mean anything that's a US based number you're not going to do. But I mean every time you see that +71 +91, all of
Plus four
these
four. Yep.
foreign, yeah, it's at the very least you can block them, and we're spending a lot of time talking about how to not get leads, which is kind of the inverse of when people come to us and they
What
want
we normally talk about. Yeah.
but at the same time listen, nothing sucks the money out of a business faster than wasting your resources.
Yeah.
So I think it really
Well,
is important
listen,
to
that's
look.
the reason why this whole thing is so important in just this one little thing. And like in the grand scheme of things, you're sitting there thinking, okay, there's so many things that you got to worry about. There's so many things we have to look at. There's so many things we have to check the boxes off to make sure we have set up properly and correctly. But this one little thing has the ability to completely deride everything that you're trying to do from an aspect of not wasting money. Now, I know how you are and what your principles are. Me, I run things the same way. It's like I run your campaigns like it's my money, right? So and I'll promise you, I'm cheap. I've been told, my wife told me I had to start using the word thrifty, but I'm cheap, right? So when it comes right down to it, that's how we run our campaigns. We don't want anybody's money wasted. So this has become and presented a unique circumstance that we have to work around in order to continue to make Facebook work well. Now, maybe it gets to the point like we're so soon into this adjustment, we don't have a lot of data back because it only impacts. So again, they started rolling out 2 or 3 weeks ago. It only impacts new campaigns. So if you've already had campaigns that are running, this doesn't change anything for you. So if you've got old campaigns, they're still going to say there. Now, the first time you go in and update like an ad creative or copy or something like that,
Right.
it's going to update and then it's going to do away with that. So if you have campaigns
Yeah.
that you may not want to turn those off, or you may not want to change those, right? Because it'll still
Absolutely.
stay within that. But anything new is what this is
Correct.
all going for. And we just don't have the data yet to see how we can combat it the best. But I foresee that there's going to be some ways where we can go through, and there's going to be new tools and things developed specifically just for this, so we don't have to waste money on people that aren't in the service area anyway.
So that's definitely, one thing to consider is, you've got existing campaigns, they're working, you don't change them. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had clients say, hey, we got to keep this fresh. And my response always is, no, we don't have to keep it fresh. We need to keep the leads rolling in. But are there ways to maybe better define your audience now so that it's not, because geographic targeting, it's like this high level up here, but we really want to be down here.
Yep.
There's a lot of different places in the buying journey that somebody may be. So what are some of the ways that you're looking at now to really dial in the audience and make sure that you're even pitching to the right person?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and I'm going to bring up a couple things that most people completely forget about whenever they're going to create their ads. So if you're doing it yourself, you're probably in this boat. Most people are, so don't feel bad. Um, and I'm going to show you rather a way that you can start leveraging some AI tools, artificial intelligence. Don't freak out about it. It's not going to take over the world or anything. But one of the things, there's a tool that's available that's free called Chat GPT. If you've never heard about it, it's fun to go just kind of mess around with it, sign up for an account. Um, but one of the things that we do with it is we want to try to focus on finding avatars, and that by avatar I mean just the basically a persona that we try to run ads to, because, and I'll unpack this a little bit, but we have to know who we're running ads to in order to communicate effectively with the right language and to choose the right interest targeting when we get to that point, right? So what we want to do is we want to take Chat GPT and we want to explain to us like, hi, my name is John. I run a company called Kitchen Remodeling Experts, and we remodel kitchens in the $50 to $100,000 range. And this is what we specialize in from a cabinet standpoint, to install shaker cabinets or modern or whatever that might look like. So you're going to explain all of this stuff and put it in one paragraph. Then you're going to space down and you're going to say, I need you to create 3 personas of people that are most likely looking for the types of services that we offer. And what ChatGPT is going to do is it's going to create 3 personas. It'll give you the name, the age, the types of things that they're in or that they're interested in. Now, if it doesn't, sometimes because you're basically programming a computer with your natural language. That's what the whole point of ChatGPT is. So sometimes you find out that's like, okay, it spits back out a persona, but it doesn't have details. So then you just go back in. It's like a chat bot, or it's just like you just sit there and chat with it. Okay.
Mhm.
And you go back and it's like, oh, well, could you tell me the things that they are most afraid of whenever they're considering getting a kitchen remodel? Can you tell me the things that they want to feel like? And all of these things, as they start stacking up, does 2 things for you. One, it allows you to know how to communicate with that person, or at least as a test. And number 2, it gives you kind of the framework of maybe the different types of ads that you may need. So I'll give you a primary example. Let's just say that ChatGPT says that your persona, your perfect customer type, is going to be a woman aged 35 to 55. She's married, 2 kids, college educated, and she likes HGTV. She likes the National Enquirer, and she likes to watch Hot Housewives of Atlanta. I don't even know if that's a real show, but let's just say that it is, right?
Sure.
So then you can go back through and say, okay, now in Facebook, we've got our geo targeting available. We're going to go ahead and drop those things in, but we want to narrow that down a little bit to only our perfect customer types. We're going to start using those and layering those interests in to say, okay, I need females 35 to 55 that have kids that are under 18, right? Because that's some targeting
And
that you can put in there as
can I
well.
just stop you for 1 second here?
Absolutely.
Because one thing I think it's important to know to a lot, not everybody is in an area that you, or in an industry you can do this with, right? Because Facebook does have restrictions, especially when it comes to fair housing, right? So
Yep.
if you're a real estate agent, if you're in the medical field, if you're in the legal
Mhm.
field, places like that, you can't discriminate.
Yep.
One of the things that I've noticed recently, though, is Facebook confuses people who
Yep.
are in the home services
Yep.
with people who are selling homes. So
Yep.
that's something that I think you do come across, and it might be a little bit of a challenge.
Well, there's going to be a couple reasons for that to some degree, and it usually comes down to language recognition, right? A lot of
Right.
times, we will use terminology in our ads that have duplicate meanings. So I'll give you an example. A lot of you guys will say, "Hey, we've got 3 jobs lined up for new decks."
Yeah.
What it's seeing it as is you have three, and potentially you have 3 deck jobs,
Right.
people that you need to hire in. And so now it's going to go under the hiring special category,
Yeah.
right? So there's little things like that that happens from time to time
Right.
that if it does happen, you don't really have to worry about it on that particular note, right?
So one of the things I'm hearing is, don't market yourself as, look, kitchen remodel job. We're going to do the next, looking for the next kitchen remodel job, because what Facebook might hear is, oh, you're actually trying to hire somebody for, or you're looking to, in an employment situation. What do you do though if that comes up? I mean, are you basically excluded then from targeting based on the age, based on all these protected classes, or I mean, is there a way around that?
No, I mean you just go through and you're just going to have to appeal it, right? So it's going to give you options where you can just appeal it, and it's going to say, well, why do you want to appeal it? You can say, I think it was confused. We do not have jobs available. This is not an employment ad. This is a job that is promoting services, and a lot of times you will get somebody on board that will.
Mhm.
That will bring in and adjust that, but it's just as simple as hitting the appeal button
Right.
on that particular part.
Right. So what you're saying basically is we still have human beings involved, and it's not all just AI. We're not
You know
robot
that
talking to robots.
That's a good question. I can't tell you with certainty if that next level is a person or
Yeah.
not. I suspect that there is a tougher front end, and then it goes into a secondary AI that's maybe a little
Yeah.
looser. And then at some point, if you continue
Yeah.
with it goes into a person. I know they've got chat support and that kind of stuff for some of the
Yeah.
business support when you're running ads, so
Yeah.
that you can have a person look at it.
It's funny. I'm friends with a lot of people who are in the writing space, and all of them keep telling me the robots are taking over. I'm going to lose my job. The robots are taking. And you know what? They're not really taking. The robots are enhancing you, but that's exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about there.
Yeah,
Um,
and that is a really good point to where, does AI get to the point to where it can run your ads for you? Maybe at some point, but I
yeah.
don't think that it will do anything without you being able to directly pilot it or program it,
Yeah.
depending on how you look at that.
Right.
But we're talking years and years away. So the very first things we want, but it's okay because we can still use AI to help us define who we want to talk to, and then it'll help you write ads. It'll help you do a lot of different things. Right now, I'll be the first one to tell you that most of the time, the output that you get is not something that's typically usable in terms of like straight out. But what we will do is that's why we have copywriters, is that we actually now can take it, it'll get it in the 50 to 70% range. And then we can go in and actually do the things that it takes to make it work better. And that includes, we talk about targeting in this episode specifically, but that includes helping us be able to define who we're talking to and what we need to say to them to persuade them to take the next action. That's the next. I'll tell you this is a little off topic, but I'll tell you that's the one thing that if you could do anything for your viewers is making sure that they're not expecting too much of the ads. Most ads, what you want to do, the purpose of the ads is for them to take the next step. So, for example, if you are in a position where you are offering consults, design sessions, free estimates, anything like that, um, keep in mind that that ad may not be the single step from click on the ad to booking an estimate in. They may be looking for more information. They may be there's a whole bunch of things that can happen in between. Like, so
Right.
for example, in my world, what I would think is the ad is supposed to generate a click to opt in. And then my next page or landing page or follow up funnel or follow up messaging is the thing that can push them over, because now I can share more. I'm not limited in what I can share. I can show them spotlight projects. I can introduce myself on video and get FaceTime. Like, there's and establish trust. There's so many things that we can do on the back end. So just keep that in mind as you're going through and you're talking to these people that AI has helped you define. Now we
Right.
just want to make sure we take the right next step and
Well,
just don't
with
expect too much down the line.
Yeah, the funny thing is with the AI though, you can actually start maybe using different goals. For example, when you're dealing with messenger campaigns in Facebook, the AI, if you build it out smart enough, it can mimic that human interaction to at least some
Yep.
extent. And a lot of people, they don't even know. One of the tricks I learned a couple of years ago with ManyChat, which was one of the first technologies that would do this, is when someone asks a question, hit that dot 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 and then have it pause for like 8 to 10 seconds. The same as like when a human being is typing and you see that on your phone.
Yep.
And the average person is, oh, I'm actually talking to a person. They're not just auto responding. So you can really make those, the AI can be really intelligent. And with all the conditional logic, I mean, now you can, like you said, the ad is to get them to engage. And now they engage with your chatbot. You get a little bit of information, and then you can even do a live transfer to a person. So now maybe you've got 90-second heads up. Hey, someone's about to come on. I got my mouth full of food because it's 12:30 in the afternoon. I better swallow and get ready.
So, there's a lot of things that AI will be able to do, but, to kind of round out the conversation from a targeting perspective, there's going to be little things that you've got to take advantage of, but just make sure right now that you're putting in your exclusion audiences. Make sure that you're using custom audiences. So that would be like people that are leads already, but they haven't purchased yet. So, you can show ads just to them. They're going to be in the right spots, right? And then if you do get into doing lookalike audiences to expand those, or you're just trying to go broad, right? And when we say broad, we're trying to show it in our area as much as possible. The exclusion audit that, exclude as much as what you can. And for the most part, that's about, and I'm sorry, take care of ad copy and your creatives, right? To make sure that you're calling people out. Hey, St. Louis homeowners, if they traveled there and they're not a St. Louis homeowner, let's hope that we were strong enough in what we said. They're like, oh, that's not for me, and they just keep right on going.
That's awesome. Josh, you just dropped some huge knowledge bombs on the audience today. I want to thank you for that. I think that a lot of these, a lot of the folks out there, they're going to hear this. They're going to say, you know what, I was making that mistake. I wasn't doing this or wasn't thinking of that, and maybe now they are. For those people though who decide, it's just too much for me. I can't. My job is to run the business. I want to be a remodeler. I want to be a plumber. I want to be an electrician. But I'm not a marketer. I don't want to deal with this. I only want to turn on the damn computer. They want to hire somebody. I mean, oftentimes, kitchen people, bath people, they talk to us at Kitchen Remodeling SEO. But if somebody wants to get the training, they want to learn a little more how to do it. How would they get a hold of you? How would they learn a little bit more about that?
Sure. They can just hop over to theadadvisor.com. And we've got a coaching and support program there. We do have recordings. We do have quote unquote courses, but that's not what it's there for. In that particular case, what the best thing that you can do is if you or you already have a marketing team that is currently doing things and you just want to, it would be like having a senior advisor really sitting there saying, okay, our campaigns are stuck. What do we do here? What's our next steps? Or in your case, you're new, you're trying to do this yourself, but you really don't know where to go with it. It's something that's affordable, I think our monthly membership fees are $297 a month. And it's like, listen, go try to find a senior marketing strategist for $297 a month. It's going to be a little difficult to find one, I'll promise you, because we've hired, listen, I'll just leave it at that. But as you go through, It's literally just to help people get unstuck and have somebody there that says, okay, what do we need to do here? And then you've got some expert guidance there for that. You know,
Sure.
if you have any questions, though, you can reach out to us right there, or Josh at theadadvisor.com.
Fantastic. Well, Josh, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I'm sure that everyone who's been listening today is just gaining a ton of information here. I'd love to have you back soon. I mean, you and I work close enough together. I think that's not going to be an issue.
Well,
But
truthfully, push comes to shove, with the way the changes are happening right now, there's going to be plenty of opportunities where things are
no doubt. We got to have you come back on to talk about, YouTube Shorts and and TikTok
Oh, yeah.
and Google Ads and all of that. So we'll do that soon. But
Absolutely.
for today, I think this has been great. For those of you who are watching, don't forget to tune in next week. We actually have a fantastic podcast with one of the premier content writers on the planet. His name is Joe. He's going to be here next week. Check out the Facebook page. You'll get a little more information on that. But for Josh Wheeler, from Mike Goldstein, this is the Crushing It with Kitchen Remodeling podcast. Thanks so much, and see you next week.